What would you do if your toxic mother-in-law announced your pregnancy before you even had the chance? That's exactly what happened in today's crazy MIL story from a woman caught between hospital visits and family betrayal. It's a real-life drama you'll want to hear till the very end. So let's start from the beginning. Have you ever had something so personal, so meaningful, that you wanted to share it in your own time, your own way, only have it stolen right out from under you? That's what happened to today's storyteller. And before you think this is just another toxic family Reddit drama, hang on, because this one cuts deep. She and her husband had just found out they were expecting their first child, a moment filled with joy, nerves, and big decisions ahead. But before they even had a chance to share their news with friends or even their own siblings, guess who took center stage? Yep, the mother-in-law, the one who always needs to be in control, the one who's made every holiday dinner about herself. Classic narcissistic mother-in-law behavior. Now, to be fair, they had told their parents the news. But they made one mistake. They didn't explicitly say, "Don't post it on Facebook." And in a world where boomers plus social media often equal chaos, well, you can probably guess what happened next. The MIL took to Facebook within hours. Not just a simple, "I'm going to be a grandma" post. Oh no, this was a full-blown announcement, complete with tags, emojis, and a big share button that spread the news faster than wildfire. The post was centered entirely around her joy, her excitement, her becoming a grandparent. Not a single mention of the actual parents-to-be. Worse, she tagged both the husband and wife, exposing their very private news to her entire friend list, which included people they barely knew. Even an ex-girlfriend of the brother-in-law commented. That's when it shifted from an innocent overshare to a just-nomil podcast-level drama. At the time, the wife, our storyteller, was in a rough place. She was dealing with hyperemesis gravidarum, couldn't keep food down, and was emotionally drained. So, instead of picking a fight, she calmly texted her MIL and asked her to at least remove the tags. That's all. Not delete the post, just remove the tags. And what did she get in response? A thumbs up emoji. That's it. No apology, no acknowledgement, just passive-aggressive digital silence. But that's not the end of it. Turns out the husband's mom drama didn't stop there. The brother-in-law had already called MIL and told her to take the post down, so had the father-in-law, but she wouldn't listen. Then she had the nerve to call her son, the husband, and complain that his wife was being unfair. Can you imagine that? You violate someone's trust, and you feel like the victim. This is where the story really starts to unravel, and where we start to ask ourselves the tough questions. Why do some people feel entitled to our most sacred moments? And more importantly, how do you set boundaries with someone who doesn't believe they've done anything wrong? If you've dealt with a crazy mill story or have your own relationship drama podcast-worthy tale, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let's talk about how to deal with people who cross the line and never say sorry. Let me ask you this. What happens when someone crosses a line and instead of owning up to it, they make you the villain? That's exactly where this toxic mother-in-law story turns up the heat. So, the husband finally hears about the Facebook post after his mum calls him not to apologize, but to complain. She acts like she's the one being wronged. "Your wife asked me to take it down, that's not fair," she says. But remember, this isn't just about her posting. It's about stealing a life moment, ignoring boundaries, and dragging her own son into a guilt trip. When he realizes what happened, he goes nuclear. And here's where the husband-mom drama becomes all too familiar for many of us. His reaction wasn't just about Facebook. It was the years of emotional build-up. Years of watching his mother manipulate, bulldoze, and center herself in situations that had nothing to do with her. He tells her plainly, "This wasn't your news to share. And Facebook isn't just family and friends. It's public. You tagged us. You made this about you." But instead of taking that in, she doubles down. She tries again to pull the father-in-law into the mix, hoping for backup. But FIL agrees with the couple. And suddenly, MIL pulls out the big emotional weapon. "You're driving a wedge between me and your dad. We're going to get a divorce, and it'll be your fault." Let that sink in. Imagine telling your adult son that his boundaries are the reason your marriage is falling apart. That's not just guilt, that's manipulation 101, a tactic we hear again and again in these narcissistic mother-in-law stories. And sadly, it works on some people, but not this husband. Even though he was furious, he kept his focus. He called his wife, our storyteller, almost in tears. Not out of guilt, but from sheer exhaustion. Between work, her worsening health, and now this emotional firestorm, it was too much. And you know what? That's the part that hit me the hardest. She's in and out of the hospital, fighting through hyperemesis gravidarum, needing IV fluids and anti-nausea meds. And instead of resting, instead of feeling joy about her pregnancy, she's fielding messages from a toxic family Reddit-level mill, pretending like nothing ever happened. Now, here's the twist. She doesn't even tell her mill she was hospitalized. Not because she's trying to be secretive, but because she's just done. Done trying to explain. Done waiting for accountability. And can you blame her? This brings up a real question for anyone dealing with crazy MIL stories. Is it even possible to build peace with someone who refuses to take responsibility? Or is the only path forward one where we redefine family on our own terms? If you faced a justnomil podcast moment in your life, you know how tough it is to protect your peace while keeping the family intact. So, I'll ask you, when boundaries are ignored and guilt becomes a weapon, what would you do? Let us know in the comments. Let me ask you something. What hurts more, the original betrayal, or when the person who hurt you pretends it never happened? Because that's exactly where this toxic mother-in-law saga goes next. After all the drama, the Facebook post, the guilt trips, the emotional outbursts, you'd expect some kind of aftermath. Maybe a genuine apology, a conversation, even a little silence out of respect. But nope. Instead, the MIL goes quiet for a moment, and then starts texting the wife like nothing ever happened. Simple, "How are you feeling today?" Messages, no mention of the post, no acknowledgement of the fight, not even a passive-aggressive, "Sorry you were upset." Just pure denial, like pressing a reset button on reality. And let me tell you, this is what many people in toxic family Reddit threads describe as the most infuriating part. Not the outbursts, not even the manipulation, but the way these narcissistic mother-in-laws pretend the damage didn't exist. Like they can just slip back into your life without addressing the wreckage. For our storyteller, that was the final straw. She's exhausted. She's been in the hospital, on IV fluids, barely able to eat. She and her husband are mentally and emotionally drained. And here's this woman who violated their trust, triggered a family argument, and dropped the divorce threat bomb, acting like she's just checking in for a casual chat. It's not just tone deaf, it's gaslighting. And here's where things shift. The wife decides, no more engagement, no more explaining, no more hoping MIL will get it if they just word it differently next time. She tells her husband, clearly and calmly, that he needs to set the boundaries. And this time, not with hints or assumptions, it needs to be black and white, no room for interpretation type boundaries. And he agrees. Because let's be honest, too many people wait until things boil over to act. But this couple, they see what's coming. They know that once the baby arrives, everything gets more intense, the stakes get higher. And if this justnomil podcast-level chaos is happening over a Facebook post, what happens when the baby is born? Will MIL show up uninvited, ignore parenting rules, try to take over holidays? We've seen it before in crazy MIL stories. The grandmother who wants to be Mom 2.0, the one who says, "I raised kids, I know better," while steamrolling every boundary you try to set. So the real question becomes, how do you move forward with someone who refuses to acknowledge their behavior and doesn't change? Do you go low contact, no contact? Do you hold out hope they'll evolve? Or do you shift your focus entirely to protecting your peace and your new family? Because if there's one thing stories like this teach us, it's that not everyone deserves front row access to your life, even if they're family. So now I'll turn it to you. Have you ever had a relationship drama podcast moment where someone crossed the line and then acted like nothing happened? How did you handle it? Let us know in the comments. Let me throw this out there. What if the person you're trying to set boundaries with genuinely doesn't believe those boundaries apply to them? That's the hard reality in so many toxic mother-in-law stories, and it's exactly what this couple is facing now. After everything, the Facebook drama, the emotional blackmail, the total lack of accountability, our storyteller and her husband are left staring down the biggest challenge yet. How do you enforce boundaries when someone sees them as personal attacks? Because here's the thing, Miel isn't just ignoring the issue, she's rewriting the narrative in her head. One where she's the victim, the caring mother/grandmother who did nothing wrong and is being shut out unfairly. And when people operate from that mindset, every boundary feels like betrayal. Every no sounds like rejection. That's how a simple request becomes a full-on husband-mom drama meltdown. The wife sees this clearly. She's emotionally done, physically drained, and fully checked out of the back and forth. But she also knows the pattern won't break itself. So, the next step? Her husband needs to take the lead. Not just because it's his mom, but because silence reads like permission. They sit down and outline clear, direct rules. No more assumptions. No more, we thought it was obvious. It's the kind of talk you'd expect in any true revenge story, except the revenge here is calm, firm clarity. And hopefully, peace. Here's the plan. No sharing private information online. Ever. No guilt-tripping, emotional manipulation, or dragging others into disagreements. No surprise visits or uninvited involvement once the baby arrives. And above all, if trust is broken again, there will be real consequences, like limited or no contact. It's not an ultimatum, it's a reality check, because this isn't just a one-time crazy mile story. It's a pattern, and patterns need consequences. Now let's pause for a second. You might be thinking, that seems harsh. Isn't this just a generational difference? And hey, maybe. A lot of these Reddit stories about mother-in-laws involve generational gaps, where boomers see social media as harmless fun, and younger families see it as a breach of privacy. But there's a difference between misunderstanding a boundary and refusing to honor it, even after it's been explained. That's where this becomes more than miscommunication. That's where narcissistic mother-in-law behavior shows up. And here's where the couple stands now. They're tired, they're united, and they're drawing the line, not just for themselves, but for the child they're bringing into this world. Because if they don't protect that space now, who will? So let's open this up to you. Have you ever tried setting boundaries with someone who just wouldn't take them seriously? What worked? What didn't? In your experience, is there a point where you stop trying to fix the relationship and start protecting your peace instead? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because sometimes the hardest part of relationship drama podcasts like this isn't the conflict, it's choosing how you move forward from it. Here's a question that might hit home. What if you're doing everything right, and it's still not enough for someone to respect your boundaries? That's where our story ends today. And honestly, it's not the perfect closure type of ending. It's the real-life, emotionally complicated kind you often hear in toxic family Reddit threads or relationship drama podcasts. The ones where peace doesn't come from reconciliation. It comes from letting go. After laying out all the rules, this couple didn't get a heartfelt apology. No dramatic change. No tearful moment of clarity from the MIL. What they got instead was silence. But you know what? That silence was golden. No more gaslighting, no more Facebook drama, no more walking on eggshells every time a message came through. For the first time in a long time, they were able to just breathe. And in that space, something beautiful happened. They finally felt like a family of two, becoming three, without the constant noise from someone trying to control the narrative. And here's the kicker. When MIL realized she wasn't going to get the reaction she wanted, she tried a classic move, playing nice again. More friendly check-ins, more casual, just wondering how you're doing texts. But by then, the couple had already seen the pattern, the cycle. The way toxic mother-in-law behavior hides behind a smile until the next opportunity to overstep comes along. So, they didn't fight. They didn't reply with anger. They didn't explain or justify anything. They just stepped back. And that was their power move. You see, not every Just No Mill podcast moment has to end in a screaming match or a total family breakdown. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is stop engaging. Stop hoping they'll become someone they're not. Start focusing on the people who actually respect you, especially the new life you're about to bring into the world. This isn't just about one Facebook post. It's about a bigger decision: choosing peace, even when it means disappointing people who expect you to keep tolerating their behavior. And maybe that's what makes this such a powerful story time with Twist. Not because the male L changed, but because they did. They stopped living in reaction to her and started building their own healthy family dynamic. So, to wrap up today's story, if you've ever had to pull back from someone toxic, whether it's a narcissistic mother-in-law, a controlling parent, or anyone who made you feel small, just know you're not alone, and you don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. Now, let's make this personal, but simple. Drop a pert in the comments if you've ever had to cut someone off to protect your mental health. Or type ML drama if you've got your own story we should talk about next. And don't forget to share this episode with a friend who knows exactly what this feels like. Thanks for listening, and remember, boundaries aren't rude, they're necessary. Catch you in the next episode of the Just Know ML podcast.